Some photos may be upsetting to viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. In George Orwell's 1984, there is a theme of police brutality and the militarization of police. The thought police watches you, and if you do anything to go against the government, they will take you. It was always at night. The arrests invariably happened at night. People simply disappeared. Orwell 19. When Winston and Julia are reading the book, they find out that they were being watched by the thought police the entire time. When the thought police came, there was a stampede of boots up the stairs. The room was full of solid men in black uniforms, with iron-shod boots on their feet and truncheons in their hands. Keep still and not give them an excuse to hit you. 222 through 223. While in the Ministry of Love, Parsons and Winston see a man brought into the holding room. His face looked like a skull because he was dying of starvation. When he was told by the guards to go to room 101, he begged them not to take him. He fought with the guards, which made them angry. A kick from a guard's boot had broken the fingers of one of his hands. They dragged him to his feet. 237. These excerpts show the thought police's abuse to the people of Oceania and how they are taught to do whatever is necessary. Police brutality has been happening throughout recent history. Poor European and Jewish people in the late 19th century, the 1960s civil rights movement, and the New York police with homosexuals and transgenders in 1969. Police brutality is an illegal use of force, consisting of assault and battery, torture, mayhem, murder, harassment, intimidation, and verbal abuse. All races, ethnicities, and genders have been abused by police, but the majority of people who are abused are African American. Usually the brutality is a form of black racism. On August 9, 2014, in Ferguson, Missouri, an 18-year-old boy named Michael Brown was shot and killed. He and his friend were walking down Canfield Drive when Officer Darren Wilson told them to walk on the sidewalk. Michael and Officer Wilson had been arguing when the officer shot Michael, who was unarmed. Later, in November of 2014, the jury decided to not press any charges against Officer Wilson. The department he worked at already had multiple incidences of violating the civil rights of African Americans. A 12-year-old boy named Tamir Rice was fatally shot by Officer Timothy Lohman. The officer opened fire on Tamir less than 2 seconds after arriving at a park where the 12-year-old was playing with a toy gun. The white officer Timothy Lohman and his partner Frank Garnbach did not face any charges for the shooting. In 2015, 1,134 people died at the hands of law enforcement officers. African Americans from the ages of 13 through 34 make up only 2% of the U.S. population, but make up 15% of the deaths in 2015. This is 5 times higher than the rate for white men of the same age. In 2015, about 25% of the African Americans killed were unarmed, compared with the 17% of white people. This disparity has narrowed since the database was first published on June 1st, at which point black people killed were found to be twice as likely to not have a weapon. The militarization of police is defined as the process whereby civilian police increasingly draw from and pattern themselves around the tenets of militarism and military model. Although non-white people make up less than 38% of the U.S. population, they are almost half of the people killed, and make up 53.6% of the unarmed people killed by law enforcement officers. This occurs when the civilian police uses techniques, patterns, and the mindsets of the military. When covered on the news, it mainly focuses on the armored vehicles, aircraft, and weapons that the civilian police use. Over 8,000 law enforcement agencies have utilized the 1033 program to access more than $6 billion worth of military equipment, such as night vision goggles, machine guns, armored vehicles, bayonets, grenade launchers, and military aircraft. Some departments, like the ones in Ferguson, Missouri, and Charlotte, North Carolina, have received criticism for their usage of military tactics. When these tactics are used, statistics show that there is an increased use of force by the civilian police. There have been many protests to advocate for stopping police brutality. On December 13, 2014, thousands of people in Washington, New York, and several other major cities protested the recent decisions of the juries for the deaths of black men at the hands of officers. More than 20 people were arrested at these protests. Protesters carried signs along streets, including ones saying, in big letters, "Stop the racist killer cops." The estimated size of crowds were between 10,000 and 50,000 people. The family members of Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, and many other victims also attended these rallies. These rallies can help decrease the amount of police brutality within communities, and in addition, all communities can help spread awareness. Movements like the Black Lives Matter movement can help do this. This is a global movement to stop police brutality against Black people. It will help spread awareness to people who don't know the reality of police brutality. To try and stop the militarization of police officers, they should try to not use excessive force and respect the moral dignity of every person. They should also try building better and positive relationships with each community through trust.